So the question is, would it be useful to meditate or join our meditation program, I guess, if you're experiencing the effects of anxiety, which is a big question. I mean, one thing to know is that anxiety is a normal, typical experience humans have. And I think we identify anxiety as a problem either when we have an amount that's kind of getting in our way from doing the things we want to do, or we've become more sensitive and are realizing the extent of our anxiety. So if you're someone where anxiety is getting in the way, I would say the practices we offer are structured in a way where you would be doing the practices that are most useful for reducing your anxiety first, because that's true of everyone. So in our first section, we work on slightly shorter meditations that enable the mind to be more tranquil and less reactive. And so that's the purpose of the first part of the work. And many people find that those practices are really helpful in reducing anxiety. Some people don't, if you haven't like thought about it in its like sort of pieces, but there's several pieces to anxiety. But one of the main ones is our reactivity and how fast we react to things. So if we have a thought that causes us stress and we become anxious, and then we have another thought from that thought and we become more anxious, our brain actually gets used to that. So our mind is now really good at experiencing being reactive and experiencing anxiety over and over and over again. And so learning practices that create a more peaceful, tranquil state of mind and a little more space from our thoughts is really useful for that. And then we're able to sort of help our mind create a situation where in our day-to-day activities, that's not happening as much. So in that way, it's really useful. If you're someone, on the second point, if you're someone that's recently figured out that you're anxious all the time, especially if you're a meditator, that's like a common thing where you get a little more sensitive. And then since you're sensitive, you you realize all the things that bother you, including your own anxiety. So it's a typical sort of state or phase in the meditative process where, you know, maybe you've done meditation a little while, and now you're realizing that like you're very aware and you're very aware of all the things that are bothering you. And so in this practice, what we do is we first become tranquil and sort of change how our brain works a little bit. So it's a little more stable and less reactive. And then we move into practices that expand our awareness. And through that expansion, it creates a situation internally for us where our vision is wider, and therefore the things inside it become smaller. So as we sit and do our practice and expand our practice, and meditation becomes more part of our life, the way we perceive things completely changes. And so it's not that anything goes away, but since we have a wider vision, the things that are causing us anxiety and bothering us seem a little smaller, so we have less reaction to them. And that's, there's so many amazing reasons to meditate, but I would say for most people, that would be in the top three, where you're going to go through your day having the same experiences and maybe even the same reactions to those experiences. But since you are also aware and sensitive to so many other things at the same time, those things don't bother us as much.
So does that mean you're actually becoming less anxious, or you feel different about your anxiety, or both?
Well, it depends how you view it, I guess. You become less anxious because you're experiencing less anxiety in your in your day-to-day, that's how we experience it. I guess as a meditation teacher, I have to add, the reality is you're experiencing the same things. They're just not having the same effect. So one, physiological example of that is that you're still experiencing like the anxiety from public speaking, but you're not getting the same nervous system reaction when you step out onto the podium to give your speech. So, technically that's less anxiety, I guess, but you're really aware of the same things. They just cause less stress in your system.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that you will actually change your nervous system over time.
Absolutely. You will change
Like,
your nervous system. Your nervous system will change because you'll be less reactive, and it won't move. Meditation is working with the mind. And when you have an input and that thing stays in your mind, it doesn't move physical, then you're having a completely different physical reaction to the same input. So you could think of it that way. So over time, it's like you have less nervous system reaction to those things. So if you've suffered in some way, you've had a trauma in your past, for instance, and you're very reactive to certain like triggers, over time, that can lessen quite a bit, because you're still triggered in that you see something, it reminds you of something. Your brain still has all those inputs inside of it, but you've trained yourself to widen your view. So now it's not going physical. And that could make huge differences in people's lives.
how long does that take? How quickly can I retrain myself?
The length of time it takes to retrain the mind is completely individual based on someone's past experiences and current experiences. So there is no answer to that question. I think what's important is you can see, what I've done and am committed to doing as a teacher is helping people evolve as quickly as they can, whatever that means for them. So it goes back to why you would want a teacher helping you with your meditation practice, because someone with more experience than you can see, little adjustments you might be able to make to move your evolution forward at a faster pace. So the real question is, what is the most rapid way I can work on my meditation practice for my goals? And the answer is with a teacher who's paying attention to you and can help you in that way. And so that's one of the things we've tried to create here with this program.
Does change happen when you meditate more? Do I have to meditate every day? Do I have to meditate longer every day? I have a very busy life. I'm just wondering if it's worth it for me to make an effort even.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth having a meditation practice, no matter what your sort of commitment, timeline, time ability is. I mean, I'm a father of two and have a busy life as well. So I don't come at this as somebody who, sits on the mat for 7 hours a day. I have lots of things I have to do as well. As you might guess, I'm a committed meditator, so I do meditate daily. Lots of people get quite a bit of benefit meditating a few times a week. And a lot of those meditations could be in the 20-minute range. So I would say on the low end, people are committing an hour a week over days. And on the high end, people are committing to, say, 2 45-minute meditation practices per day. So that's like the range in which someone can work. The other thing that's important to know is you don't lose all your work when you take breaks or slow down, sort of like working out. You don't, if you lift weights for 20 years and take 3 weeks off, you don't lose all your muscles. And it's the same with your mind. If you meditate very consistently for periods of time, and then you need to slow that down to deal with life events, and then you pick it back up, it's not like you've never meditated before. So sometimes people kind of go into that with that attitude. So one of the things we talk about a lot in the program is how much should I meditate? How do I adjust my practice for my current circumstances? Is this an appropriate time to meditate? So there's lots of times when meditation might not be an important thing for you to be doing. Like when a loved one dies, there's lots of events we have in our life where it's not your moment. You're in the middle of having a baby, this is not your time to really bear down on your meditation practice. So I recommend that people think about it more as like a long-term practice where it will probably ebb and flow a bit based on your life.
So do I have to meditate for a long time to feel any effects from it? If it sounds like, I imagine that kind of retraining one's mind or nervous system takes a long time. Will I see any changes right away? How does that work?
Yeah, how long it takes to notice effects from meditation definitely varies from person to person. And I'm not so sure it's as much about the practice as the person's awareness levels. Working with individuals, I definitely see people have changes in terms of their descriptions of their experiences, et cetera, within 3 weeks. But whether or not one would perceive them really clearly, every day is a new adventure. So if your arm hurts 100% and then your arm hurts 50% 3 weeks from now, you're probably going to say my arm hurts. So that's one way to sort of understand that concept. I've had people meditate, 4 times and say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I didn't know this was possible. I'm having levels of sort of well-being that I haven't experienced in years. I've had other people meditate for 3 weeks and I don't feel anything. And then upon further questioning, it turns out they're sleeping better. So they are having effects. It's just the way we perceive it. But I wouldn't say in terms of figuring out whether meditating is, and in this style, for instance, is a good fit for you. I would definitely say if you gave it 6 to 8 weeks, you'd probably have a pretty good idea of whether you were on the right track or not.